Hi makers! In this video we'll be making this seemingly floating concrete table, which can be made in a weekend. The only two things really required is steel square tubing and some concrete. It features a planter and a light bar which lights up the ground. It is also quite easy to scale this project up with some minor modifications in the construction. Let's get making! To make this table, you will need a welder. Now, this project is actually the reason I bought one, and this is also my first project using it. So if you have some tips, I would love to read those in the comment section below. So as mentioned, you will need square steel tubing and a concrete mix. I used tubing with the dimensions of 20 by 20 millimeters, which translates to around 4/5 of an inch. If I were to do it again, I would probably choose something beefier, maybe 30 millimeters, since this way there's just a slight rocking to it when heavy objects are placed on top. Anyway, I started by marking and cutting the tubing. This would be much simpler and more precise with band or miter saw, but since I only have a small metal saw and a miter box, I used what I had. After that was done, I started up the welder and started welding. Well, not exactly. See, I thought welding would be a piece of cake, but it actually turned out to be quite challenging. What I show you here is just a fraction of all my fails. Somehow though, I succeeded in welding all 8 joints in a way that this table hasn't collapsed to this day. Now I call that a success. Well, the welds weren't exactly of astonishing quality, but I proceeded without redoing it since I was short of welding rods. Some joints looked nicer than others, but you get what I mean. As I wanted to have a light which would shine down onto, well, not the legs, I wrapped a piece of wire around the top part of the steel and drilled a pair of holes through one leg and pushed the wire through the tube. I built the mold for the concrete tabletop, which had the inside dimensions that are displayed on the screen. I cut and secured the walls to the base with hot glue, nothing fancy here. The reason I chose polystyrene over melamine, for example, is that the foam has an interesting texture, which I think will be a good match for my industrial look which I envisioned. If you're looking for a marble design, then I recommend a mold material which is smooth. I marked where the steel structure would sit and precisely measured and cut, in my case 8 cm long skewers, which I later pushed down into the foam within the marked areas to act as standoffs. If you are using melamine, then pre-drilling will be necessary. I also secured a piece of foam to the center, which is where our plants will later go. So even though I mentioned that you only need steel tubing and concrete, I just wanted to make sure that the table wouldn't collapse. As reinforcement, I used what I had laying around, in my case chicken wire, but fiberglass mixed into the concrete will do even better. Next, I mixed a batch which was somewhat dry, but it ended up working fine. I placed, more than poured, the concrete into the mold and positioned the steel frame on top of the skewers. I continued pouring several more rounds of concrete with more water added, while making sure the wire that we added before was above the layers. I used a stick to force the concrete down into the crevices and applied a few more batches until it reached the 8 cm mark on the sides. After the last layer was poured, I flattened out the top, which is also the bottom. Anyway, after 24 hours I removed the styrene, which revealed a not completely dry table, so I waited another day. Then I flipped it upside down and removed the foam from the top as well. I then pulled out the skewers, revealing a few nasty holes, but don't worry. Next, I sifted some concrete through a strainer and applied the fine mixture as a top layer. When that had dried, I applied a concrete sealer which will make the surface dustless. Ideally, you will plant something useful in this, like herbs, but since this will be right next to my bed, I wouldn't like the constant smell of rosemary or such.
Wait, what did you say? You don't like my smell?
Don't worry, it's just rosemary.
What do you mean by Mary or such? Have you? I'm breaking up with you right away.
And that happened. So what I was trying to say is that I will be planting cacti since they require little maintenance. But here is a problem. When reaching for the phone in the middle of the night, I could get splinters all over my hands. Now that's a lot of damage. So I wanted to have a sheet of glass on one side of the cacti to protect my hand. First, I needed to cut the glass though. I was thinking of scoring it and heating it up. I was thinking of using a diamond blade. You know, let's just ditch the glass. So I cut a sheet of aluminum to size and roughed up the surface. I applied silicone and secured it in place. While I was at it, I also used the silicone to fix the LED strip to the underside. To protect the plants from the concrete and vice versa, I covered the entire pot with a food-safe aquarium silicone. After drying, I placed some clay balls in the bottom to act as a water reservoir and added the 3 cacti of my choice. I also placed my D-Day diorama on one side of the plants. After hooking up the light strips to a power source, it was finally done. And I must say, it looks absolutely amazing. I am so happy with my design choice, with the combination of industrial design and nature along with history. However, this video is coming to an end. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, please like the video, subscribe and ring the bell. I will see you another weekend.